I never thought a silly argument could turn into such a terrible ordeal. It began one cold Friday night when Sarah and I argued about something small. The tension was thick in the air. Now, I wish I had just kept quiet, put aside my pride, and told her I cared for her. But pride often gets in the way and clouds our judgment. Before I knew it, Sarah angrily left my apartment, leaving me to regret my words. Sarah was a runaway. A young woman who had escaped her troubled family after finishing high school, seeking solace in the anonymity of a distant city. She worked at a grocery store to make ends meet, her days filled with the monotony of survival in a world that had dealt her a cruel hand. As for me, I had only been working at my first job for just over a year since graduating from college. Our worlds collided in a whirlwind romance. Two lost souls seeking solace in each other's arms. However, beneath the facade of love and laughter lurked shadows of doubt and insecurity, festering wounds from our respective pasts that we tried so desperately to ignore. I tried calling and texting her, but she didn't answer. Time seemed to crawl by, each moment filled with worry and doubt. It wasn't until the early hours of the morning that I began to feel really anxious, like something was very wrong. I went to her place, but her roommate said she hadn't come home since last night. We reached out to all her friends that we knew of, but none of them knew where she was. I called the police, my voice shaking as I told them Sarah was missing. They promised to do everything they could to find her, but the hours stretched into days with no sign of her. Every moment felt like a stab in the heart, filled with guilt over our argument. Then, I received the shocking news out of nowhere. They discovered Sarah's lifeless body, discarded in the woods. It hit me like a ton of bricks, crushing me with unbearable weight as I struggled to comprehend the unimaginable horror of losing her. The police's initial theory was both chilling and infuriating. They speculated that Sarah had died from a drug overdose at a party, and her supposed friends had heartlessly disposed of her body to evade detection. The very idea of Sarah being treated with such disregard sent shivers down my spine, igniting a furious determination within me to uncover the truth. The police's investigation yielded some answers. The first breakthrough came from an unexpected source, a coworker of Sarah's at the grocery store. She disclosed that Sarah recently caught up in a perilous world of drugs. My mind struggled to accept this revelation, finding it hard to reconcile the image of the sweet, loving girl I knew with the stark reality of her hidden demons. Sarah had gotten involved with the wrong crowd, pulled into a dark underworld where the distinction between right and wrong faded into obscurity. Even though I live in the same town as my parents, I have my own place. I used to be engaged, so I rented an apartment. Even though the relationship didn't work out, I decided to keep living in the apartment. To tell you the truth, I didn't call home much, at most once a week. It's because my mom kept urging me to come home and patch things up with my younger brother, Tyler, who still lives with them. We had a falling out a few years ago, and I haven't really wanted anything to do with him since then. After he finished college, he moved back home because he got a job where he could work remotely. My peaceful life turned upside down when Daniel, a close family friend who also works with my mom, told me that she hadn't been at work for 2 days. He was told by Tyler that our parents had gone on a sudden trip to our family cabin for the long weekend. When he tried to call them, their phones were off. I tried calling them too, and sure enough, I couldn't get through. I called Tyler to ask about where Mom and Dad were. He said they left Thursday morning, but because he slept in, he didn't see them go. Since it was already Tuesday, I asked if our parents had reached out to him. He said they hadn't called, and because he was busy with a deadline, he didn't have time to go looking for them. Feeling mad at him and at myself, I drove to our family cabin. It took me 3 hours to get there. When I arrived, I noticed the door was still locked. After unlocking it, I found the cabin was empty. There were no signs that anyone had been there recently, as there was a thin layer of dust on the furniture. I called Tyler and told him what happened. I asked him to go to our neighbors and see if anyone saw our parents leave, or if there was any security camera footage of their departure. When I got to my parents' house, I picked up Tyler and we went to the sheriff's office to report them missing. We were questioned by the officers. During the interviews, it came out that Tyler was spending time playing house with his girlfriend during the long weekend. That's why he didn't try to contact our parents. The officer called Tyler's girlfriend and asked her to come to the office. The officer told me that Tyler's girlfriend confirmed she did spend the weekend at our parents' house. The next morning, the detectives came to our house with a search warrant. They looked around for any clues. They found some blood near the fireplace. Tyler told them it was Dad's blood because he accidentally stepped on some broken glass, and he hadn't cleaned it up properly. Days turned into a stressful week. With still no sign of our parents and no answers to our worried calls and messages, the investigation continued. The detectives spent more time questioning Tyler, as doubts filled the air. I asked the detectives about it and if Tyler was involved in our parents' disappearance. They said they were still investigating, and questioning Tyler was routine since he lived with our parents. I was troubled by Tyler's apparent lack of concern about our parents' whereabouts, but I knew him to be self-centered and lacking in empathy, so I didn't bring it up with him, as he had also lost our parents. I didn't want to accuse him of anything without any solid evidence. The next few months were really tough for me. When the authorities told me they couldn't devote as many resources to the investigation anymore, my heart sank. The case would stay open, but it was hard to accept. I tried to carry on with life as best as I could. Unfortunately, there was no more news. Tyler had moved out, and I hadn't heard from him in a long time. I tried to move forward with my life. I kept my parents' house and hired a housekeeper to come occasionally and tidy up. I did it with the hope that one day my parents would come home and find their house well kept and in good condition. I knew it was unlikely, but I could only hold onto that hope.